Political commentator Colin James now joins us from Wellington. Hi, Colin.
Good morning, Rachel.
Let's just clarify this. What does Tuku Morgan mean when he says he wants the River Authority to have allocation rights?
Well, at the moment, most water is allocated by regional councils, as he said, and he wants the authority to have that allocation role instead of just being a management role. There's a lot more to this, and your Federated Farmers representative mentioned the Land and Water Forum and the collaborative governance process, and the Land and Water Forum has in fact recommended in its second report that there be a local or regional collaborative governance process, including iwi, very specifically saying that in the general process. So there's a tension there between what Tuku's arguing for and what the Land and Water Forum is suggesting, which iwi have been an integral part of that discussion.
What do you then expect to come out of the national hui this week?
Well, I'm not sure. I think the beginnings of a conversation. One of the things at the core of all this is that each iwi separately deals with the Crown. Each iwi has a separate interest, and hapu should say as well, in particular water. And therefore you cannot just have a blanket settlement. What Tuku Morgan has said is looking for a framework in which might be a sort of guidance as to how these settlements could be done. But iwi are different. They're a bit like the United Nations, more nations than united. So it's going to be fascinating to see where this hui goes. And I would expect that it would just not be one hui. If you're going to something come out of it, it's going to take quite a long period of discussion to see whether or not they can form more united than nations.
Do you think it could trigger, if you like, a national framework for dealing with issues like this?
Well, that's what the Māori King has suggested, or it's been suggested on his behalf. And it's what the tribunal suggested, and it's what John Key explicitly rejected. He said that the government's not going to do a national settlement, but that's not exactly what the tribunal said. If it's a guidance mechanism, then it would put some degree of, put parameters around just where this is going. At the moment, there's no clarity where it's going. Ngāti Kāngunu came in this week, tabled its claim for the government, and Kāngunu has quite a number of rather large rivers and waterways. So where this goes, at some point there has to be some sort of consistency to it so that everybody's got a greater degree of certainty. There also needs to be, at some point, and this is quite, I think will come through in the third report of the Land and Water Forum, a degree of pricing in some way, and there are various ways you can do that so that there is actual pricing of water instead of this allocation first in, first served, which has run into real trouble in Canterbury, where the government's going to keep those commissioners on there, has run into trouble in Hawke's Bay and needs to be sorted.
OK, John Key says he's not going to go to the hui, neither will any of his MPs. Yeah. What are the political implications for the government in all of this?
Well, there's a short-term implication. If he probably gets a score with conservative middle ground New Zealanders saying, do we have to go on having these debates with Māori? They've pushed too far again. But the longer-term issue for the National Party is it needs to be able to tap into more Māori votes than it has at the moment. At the moment it's doing that through the Māori Party. But if at some point the Māori Party finds itself unable to continue with the government, or if it just simply fails at the next election because of that, then there's a longer-term issue for John Key. There's another issue in behind this, in that the asset sales are a core policy for this term. And in fact, they've been hyped by the government into just about the core policy. Delaying until the first part of next year, that's okay. But if it gets damaged on the way through, if this policy doesn't really work in the end, then that'll leave a hole in the government's program. And that won't look too good for the government in terms of its competence to manage. This has not been managed very well, I might say, all the way through, from the big failure to put the treaty clause in the mixed ownership model bill, which eventually they did. It could never have applied to other than the Crown. So it was a mistake right at the start.
Yes, it has been an ongoing criticism, hasn't it? Political commentator Colin James, thank you.
Nice to meet you.